Oh, I forgot to add in the intro. I'll tell him. This is the only snowboarder I get mistaken for from time to time.
Oh, nice. Yeah, hang on to that.
Yeah,
Hang on to
he's
that.
famous enough for me to get mistaken for him, so
That's pretty good. I would say mine is probably Sean White. Yeah.
that's hilarious.
Someone asked me once if I was Pat Moore's dad.
Wow. Welcome to my kitchen where people are currently trying to cook a breakfast and my dog is attacking a pillow. This is the latest episode of the Mark My Bird podcast, a snowboard mag podcast featuring myself, Mark Clavin, and the one and only wonderfully talented, extremely multi-dimensional announcing photographer, writer extraordinaire,
Okay.
T-Bird.
Okay. Hey. Hi, Mark. Hi, Mark. You said a very high mark there for an intro. I appreciate that. I don't know why you're being so nice to me, but a little alerted, shall we say?
You know, I got a new lease on life. I went down to West Virginia for a rail jam / Red Bull trip to Ibiza contest thing, and it was pouring rain the entire time. I had to leave a little bit early, and I barely made it out of the area before the roads start flooding. So, you know, it was just I'm feeling just happy to be home in safe Ohio, away from natural disasters, surrounded by
Yeah.
loved ones, cooking food while I'm trying to record a podcast. You know,
I was sitting at home in Portland, Oregon. I was like, I wonder how Clavin's doing at that rail jam in West Virginia, and then just opened Instagram, and the first thing I saw was a photo of you and Alex Kakamo, and you looked fucking drenched in rain.
that was on like. I don't know how long have I been doing this? Like 10 years maybe of shooting photos outside for snowboarding. That might have been the wettest I've ever been.
Did you run the gear on your camera to keep it dry, or did you not even have your camera out?
I had my camera out, and no, I did not have any gear on it to keep dry. I don't work for Getty. You think I have those nice plastic bags for my stuff? No, we're fine. I'm running a 2012 Nikon D4, tough as a tank, totally fine.
Nothing wrong with a D4 or a D4S. They're tanks, dude. Actually.
Well, there is something wrong with a D4S because D4Ss shoot video. And, you know, I'm not going to, any clients out there, I'm not shooting a single second of video that is not on my phone, photos only.
Well, what's been going on in Cleveland, Ohio as of recently?
We actually got a huge snow, like we have snow. Any crews out there that, you know, I already hit all the spots this year now from past episodes that we've been talking about. So any Cleveland crew that wants to come through and get some clips, there's actually like probably 7 inches of snow just kind of sitting, and it's cold and it's nice.
That's pretty good. We got snow in Portland, actually.
Yeah,
and it was one of
you guys
those.
had like an ice storm, right?
It was nice because it didn't turn to ice. It was just actually like, I don't know, 6, 7 inches of snow, and then it stayed kind of warm. Usually in Portland, it turns cold after that and starts raining, and that's when the roads ice over and the city pretty much throws up its hands and says, well, there's nothing we can do. But this one was nice. It stayed warm, went sledding with my daughter, went up to Ski Bowl, and she actually rode from 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. straight up, like 7 full runs. It was incredible. It was awesome.
Anybody that has a young child should follow T-Bird on Instagram just so they can know the bar of what the daughter of a longtime snowboarding editor, how good she is. Because you can kind of just go, okay, my kid's like, you know, around that. That's pretty good if it's someone that is involved with snowboarding.
Yeah, and the big thing is like, you know, we take her a bunch, but I never really want to like push it on her. Just because I do it doesn't mean she has to do it, but she's still really hyped on it. So as long as she's hyped on it, we're going to take her snowboarding as much as we possibly can.
Would you let her go snowboarding with our next guest?
No, not a chance in hell. This man is psychotic in a mountain environment.
That was like, yeah, he is a true psychopath because the paths he's taking are only for psychotic people. I don't understand it. Our guest today is Nick Russell. A kind of his claim to fame is potentially being the first ever sponsored splitboarder. He grew up on the East Coast. He did the contest scene for a bit, but when he got his actual sponsorship contracts, he was a full-time splitboarder, which even according to Jeremy Jones in a few of the intros that I've read about him, he doesn't know anybody else that kind of got sponsored at 32 as a splitboarder. That is a tough route to take. While most snowboarders can get 30 laps in one day at a resort, Nick waits about 30 days to get one lap in remote sections of the world. He has descended in crazy places in Alaska, Bolivia, Mexico, Nepal, India, and I'm sure plenty more. While most people in the U.S. probably will never get to 14,000 feet without the help of a plane, this guy lives at 14,000 feet on a month-to-month basis. So, welcome to the podcast, Nick Russell. Hey, how's it going?
There he is.
Hey guys,
Where are you right now?
I'm in Truckee.
Nice.
Yeah, I got home like a week and a half ago. Was in Europe for quite a while, and it didn't snow a drop here in Tahoe while I was gone, and then it kind of just turned. I mean, I wouldn't say it turned on, but we've been getting snow.
Anything you can talk about what you were up to in Europe?
We were doing a film tour for Papsura, or I
Excellent.
was. Yeah, had a pretty intense. I mean, it was only 5 days of the actual film tour, but different country every day, and then ended in Chamonix, France, and stayed out there for 2 weeks to kind of detox and decompress and get back on the mountain program.
Yeah, for those of us in our audience who have not had the pleasure of seeing Papsura yet, I do want to kind of get into it because that film was gripping, beautiful, intense, well edited. It was great storytelling. I just fucking loved it. I love all mountaineering films, ski, snowboard, you know, alpinist climbing that doesn't involve skis or snowboards. But I want to talk a little bit about, and you talk about this in the film, kind of the inception, the origin story of
Mm-hmm.
that fabled peak and kind of how it came to you and how you landed on, I'm going to do that. This is going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the inception was stemmed when Jerry and I actually decided to go, Jerry, Mark, and I. It was kind of a tribute to Hillary Nelson, who made the first descent of the peak along with Jim Morrison and Chris Figenshaw shooting photos in 2017. And a super remote, wild mountain in northern India. And basically, they went and got this thing done, and we saw the photos, and it's just like undeniably alluring for anyone like myself that likes free riding in the bigger mountains and climbing and riding big lines and expeditions and all that. But really at the time it wasn't in the cards of our ability level by any means. Jerry and I kind of joked about it for a few years after that. We were like, dude, should we go to Papsura? Like, yeah, totally. And talk is pretty cheap. And then after her tragic passing in 2022, for whatever reason, kind of before she had passed and hanging out with her and Jim, they had both kind of mentioned like, oh man, this is like the most beautiful line that we've ever done, that we've ever seen. Like, it would be insane if you went there to go try and ride it. And for whatever reason, just started thinking about that. And Jerry and I, we were rock climbing. This is now, it was like the summer prior to the spring, and we just decided to commit and figure it out and go for it. And sort of the more we started talking about it, I was like, man, I haven't really done my own film project in quite a few years. There was a cool storyline behind the whole thing. Let's see what it takes to be able to get a couple cameras out there to document the whole journey. And thankfully, Patagonia stepped up to help support the project. And we had Blake Gordon come along, who I'd been on a couple expeditions with. He's kind of on-slope cinematographer, photographer, wizard. And then Morgan Shields from Jackson Hole, who Morgan and I had worked together a little bit with some TGR stuff a couple years ago. And he was, when I asked him if he'd be interested, he was just instant yes. So that's kind of what you hope for when you invite someone on an expedition is minimal questions, and they just want to go on a fun adventure.
And now when you say, a couple of years back that you didn't feel like your skill level was quite there, tackling a peak like Papsura, what were some of the key ingredients missing that you felt you needed to kind of dial in to go on an expedition of that nature?
I mean, it's time, it's years of, obviously your technical skills of, being comfortable riding steep exposed terrain, but climbing it. So those technical skills and feeling comfortable on steep snow, rock, and ice, and being confident in your ability, and really just, I think, like years of expeditions compounding of being able to anticipate what an expedition like that would be like. Spending a month out there in northern India, where if you just went into it blind, it's super overwhelming. The whole year building up to it with the planning and logistics and this and that, the gear, and um, I really think that it was really like the last 10 years or so that sort of prepped me for having a decent shot at trying something like that.
And when you're tackling a peak like that, obviously there's so much beta you can gather by hiking up the line that you're going to be riding down. Are you digging pits on the way up? I've always wondered, like, how are you getting the beta on the snow, because it does change so much in elevation, right? Like snow that is much lower and more in the sun can have less persistent weak layers or layers in it than stuff that's way up top, high up top, that's been kind of wind scoured. How are you like getting that snow science on the way up before you ride down?
Yeah, so you're, like you said, you're going through so many different elevation bands along the way that aren't necessarily indicative to what you're going to. And generally speaking, expedition season happens in the spring, April through June, depending on the mountain range that you're at. So, in a perfect world, that's when the snowpack is the strongest. So, you're not really going to be dealing with persistent layers at that point, especially in an equatorial snowpack like that. But it really comes down to watching and observing, and those type of trips take so long, just physically getting yourself into position to be able to try it. But also, you just need the time to really, dive into the snowpack and like see how it feels, and you're watching where the avalanches come down after it snows, and every time it snows you're kind of back to ground zero, and you're watching again. And you know our highest camp was at the base of the line, so we hadn't been any higher than that. So it was really watching this thing, and seeing where slough comes down, and making sure that you're getting a minimum of 24 hours of full sun on the face before stepping onto it. And then as you're climbing it, you're kind of assessing as you go. It was, generally speaking, spring snow conditions down lower, and then higher up it was more colder snow. And you're really just, you break it down into pitches, and you're like, okay, we just need to get to this rock right here. Okay, this feels good. All right. Okay, now we're going to get to the Bergstrand. How's this feel? And thankfully, with this line on Papsura, it was, you're kind of climbing diagonally on the slope, so you're never underneath a huge amount of exposure, like a huge big open face. That would be super scary in any snow conditions if there was
Yeah.
anything to avalanche on you. And really, when it comes down to it, if it doesn't feel like total green lights the whole way, like if it doesn't feel perfect, then you're not doing something like that. You're going to bail. And thankfully it lined up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we got right into this, but also we did not mention in the intro that Papsura Peak of Evil, Nick's latest project, is on YouTube now to watch. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's insane, and then everything will make sense that we talk about today.
yep, 100%. Um, and kind of taking it back to maybe the beginning, but I guess you grew up on the East Coast, correct?
Yeah, correct. Connecticut, and then Southern Vermont.
Growing up as an East Coaster, I'm assuming you came up through the USASA competitive circuit, doing slope style, a little bit of rail riding, maybe some half pipe.
Oh yeah.
When did not just the powder bug, but the kind of Schraupenism bug, the type of snowboarding that you like to do, high alpine, extremely risky snowboarding. When did that was there a moment in time where you were like, "Oh shit, this is my path and I have to see it through at all costs"?
Yeah. I think in any snowboarder's path or any human life path, you have these moments throughout your life that are kind of, tipping points and sort of graduate you from one time of your life to the next. And I do have this memory when I was competing, and there was some fresh snow on the side of the slopestyle run. And the slopestyle, I think we were in like Michigan or something like that, and super sketchy jump. Didn't want to hit the jump. It was not super enticing. But I remember in the slopestyle run, kind of dipping under the rope and getting a couple turns of powder and coming back in and whatever. And that was maybe like a subconscious, like, oh yeah, I think maybe I want to do some different styles of snowboarding. Um, but the like tralpitism, it stems from man, it's probably hard to put it in the cliff notes, but it stemmed from after I got sick in 2015. I was kind of already splitboarding a lot with Wyatt Stassinos and kind of starting to go down that path. But once I got sick and sort of recovered in late spring, I really wanted to continue to ride that season. But being late April, May, June, most of the ski resorts had shut down, and the only place where there was snow was the volcanoes in the Pacific Northwest. And so that was the first time I went to REI and bought some crampons and an ice axe and did a full blown volcano tour. Mount Shasta, Rainier, the Sisters, Hood, Mount St. Helens, Mount Adams, and the snow every time it was, sometimes we would get some nice spring corn snow that rides nicely, but a lot of times it's, sun cupped or firm or just shitty snow. But just that whole experience was so much more involved than the snowboarding that I had been used to, of the camping and, getting the gear together. And I really took to that quickly, and it's sort of just snowballed from there.
Yeah, you kind of alluded to it there, and it's also covered a little bit in the movie. But you had a liver problem, or so, could you expand on your sickness there for a little bit?
Yeah, it was called a streptococcus infection. Um, Still don't know what it is. The doctors didn't know what caused it at the time, which is sort of why it was such a serious issue. But I was in the hospital for over a month in the sort of ICU unit in Salt Lake City. I was in Jackson Hole at the time and went into the hospital because I was having a hard time breathing. They thought I had pneumonia. And so they went to do a chest x-ray, and they found this big abscess in my liver. And doctor comes in, kind of very serious look on his face. It's like, we got to life flight you to Salt Lake City now. So I took the life flight to Salt Lake City and ended up staying there for, well over a month. And I was so out of it between, feeling sick and meds and whatever, that like really the severity of it all didn't really hit me until, one day, a couple weeks in, I was sort of coming back to, and one of the doctors or nurses came in and was like, I don't know how close you realize you were like to dying. Like you were really riding a fine line there. And yeah, the doctors never found out what caused it. It was sort of just a freak thing that was really a testament to, this like fragility of life and that anything can happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
going through
wild.
I'm going through a sickness right now. I've been in a flare for like ulcerative colitis for the last year, basically. So, kind of seeing or just hearing your story also gave me a little hope. It's like, oh yeah, like after you get through it, maybe I'll go. I'm not going to climb Papsura or anything that's probably above 1,200 feet ever, but or 12,000. I'll go to the top of Mammoth, a couple more times. But it
But
was.
the thing is, if you wanted to, you could.
I don't know
I
if I
think
want to. Watching your project, like ice axes, I don't think I could safely get down a hill with a pocket knife in my hand open. So to be riding with an ice axe is very, very.
I don't know. I kind of think that's the content we need. Clavin and Nick Go to the Himalayas. Watch
Yes.
what happens.
You
Yes.
are the only snowboarder. I'm not trying to say this to offend you. You are the only snowboarder I get mistaken for on a semi-regular basis. Before I had glasses, people literally would come and be like, "Oh, Nick Russell." Or I was like, "No, he's over there."
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
you're very handsome. So I was very flattered when people would give me that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Was Papsura the most ambitious or I guess like hardest peak you've ever ridden? And if not, which one was?
I would say so. Um, Only because like the like Jim, we met up with Jim Morrison. He's a good friend, lives in Tahoe, do a lot of riding with him. And Jerry and we had some sessions together in the High Sierra in the weeks prior to departing, and we finally met up with him and kind of went through the maps and his photos, and that's what we call beta, like the information about the line. And he's really excited telling us about all this stuff, and then he's kind of just like sort of comes back to, and he's like, this is the gnarliest thing that I've ever done. And he's a pretty gnarly guy and has done some crazy things. 8,000-meter peaks, like first descent of Lhotse, which is the fourth tallest mountain in the world, like set the standard really for like American high altitude skiing. And I remember Jerry and I kind of looked at each other, just like sort of glanced at each other. And I definitely had this moment of like, oh shit, like I knew this is going to be pretty intense and ambitious, but I was like, fuck, what are we getting into right now? And that really set the tone of it being this, serious thing. Not to say that other expeditions aren't serious, but it was cool to just have something like that seemed so far out of reach and far-fetched that you just don't know if it's going to happen or not.
Like Papsura obviously had the like Hillary connection, and you guys kind of had that reason also to go. But like I was reading, you've summited stuff in like Bolivia, Mexico. Like those seem a little random compared to like Nepal, India. Where, when your research starts, is it just somewhere you're like, oh, I kind of want to go there. It looks interesting. There's a face there that I really want to tackle, or is it just like, yeah, where do you get your inspiration to kind of go?
I mean, it usually starts with the line itself. You see a photo of something, and you're like, wow, I would love to go try to ride that thing. And you start doing a little bit more research, and it's what Jer calls the wonderful problem is there's just like so many things to do out there. Like how do you zone in and choose one? And I've kind of learned over the years that like if you're constantly drawn back to this thing, if a couple of weeks go by and it you start thinking about it again, or it keeps you up at night, and like you eventually get to this point where you're like, listen, if I don't do this, if I don't go and try, I'm going to drive myself crazy thinking and wondering what if for the next however many years. And yeah, it varies. I think it stems from like this innate human desire to have firsthand experience in a various part of the world or various mountain range. It can be in the States, like I've still haven't ridden much in Idaho. That's high on my list. I want to go to Idaho and the Sawtooths and go hang out. And I think as a snowboarder, as like a free rider, you want to experience these mountain ranges out there. You've heard these stories, you've seen these photos, these, maybe video footage. But I think what's really exciting for me is these areas where there are no photos, there is no video footage. And maybe that's an opening where you can help, contribute to that and inspire the next generation to go out there themselves.
Exactly. That's kind of like you're not going on Getty Images or like you know some random stock image place and finding these photos of remote places. So I mean,
Surprisingly, though, I am. Um,
really,
yeah, I don't want to give away all my secrets,
yeah.
but when you're talking about a really remote place, maybe that you find from Google Earth, and then you see the name of like the biggest peak in the range, and you start doing some Googling. Um, and like Google image searches. And yeah, surprisingly, like what is it called? It's not Getty, but it's like a shutter fly
Yeah,
or
Shutterfly or something like that.
Shutterstock.
Yeah.
yeah. So like trekkers will go into these areas and they'll upload 100, 200 photos from their trek, and then it becomes this wild goose chase where you're trying to like triangulate where they took the photo from and where the peak is on the skyline and find that on Google Earth, and then you're looking for the nearest town or village to that of how you get in there. And man, it really is like this total rabbit hole.
Are you afraid a little bit now, spending a lot of budget traveling somewhere far and it just being an AI image of a mountain that just doesn't even exist? And maybe now with how they changed Google Earth from the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf, maybe someone just named a mountain and just popped it up in there. So reality is not there.
I was actually planning this expedition to Dante's Peak, and I don't know if you guys remember that movie with Dennis Quaid. The photo on the cover of the movie, if I don't know if this is a screen thing, but if you put it up, it's this insane looking mountain. It's like 3 Mount Rainiers stacked on each other, and not a real mountain.
So it's happened before. There you were inspired and like, oh crap.
Yeah, pitched this whole thing.
It's funny because, admittedly, I'm so drawn to alpinism and like high alpine stuff. Like, I think it's the coolest shit ever, and I can't consume enough content. But I've, written stories and tagged along on trips that have kind of dabbled in that world. And it didn't take me very long to realize that, like, it's just not in me, Like, I've been pulled up some cool R's. I've been in situations where maybe the riders weren't uncomfortable, but I was kind of nearing that limit. And to me, it's terrifying but exhilarating. But I just know that I don't quite have it. People like you are very intriguing to me in the sense that you have it, you'll never get enough, and you walk that line, right? There is a line, and you walk on that. How do you balance that in your own head, walking that line?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you when I figure it out. I think it's a pretty constant peak and valley scenario. Obviously, when things work out, it feeds the fire. But when it doesn't work out, you have to take a step back and question things and reassess what you're doing, and sometimes kind of tweak your thought process of going out there. I'm kind of at a place right now that's maybe looking for a bit more aesthetics or quality snow, but yeah, I think it depends on honestly it depends on the month of the season for me of how motivated I am to try to push it, and how comfortable and fit I feel personally, like on my snowboard and climbing. And that's the beauty of the springtime of like these expeditions really going down in the spring, because you have all season to get comfortable and get strong on the board, and be able to anticipate these weird things that you encounter in the higher mountains.
Yeah. Do you guys all go to a certain very specific therapist? Because if you went to a normal one, they would just say, you're crazy. Don't do that.
Yeah, just stop.
Yeah. Well,
Just
what's funny is when I was going down to the Red Bull facility a lot the past couple of years, they have a sports therapist there, or sports psychologist there. And I remember after like a couple of heavy trips going in there, and sort of just like telling her what was going on, and she's just like, whoa, that's fucking crazy.
I don't have the tools to help you out. I'm sorry. You're on your own. Go talk to Travis Rice.
Yeah, I don't know. There should be some support group within a peer system. I think that would be cool.
I read in one, just doing a little research, Travis did say you are the backcountry snowboarder that is pushing like more than anybody else and expanding the sport. I mean, that's got to feel pretty insane to be talked about in that way.
Yeah, of course. I mean, humbled to hear that. I think Travis has done more for backcountry snowboarding than anyone ever will. But yeah, that's an honor to hear. And I think it's all relative. I think, you know, there's a time and place for everything. And um, when you see a gap in a certain avenue, you know, if or an opportunity to expand upon that arena of snowboarding, it's pretty cool. And really, that's all we're doing is, you know, taking influence from so many different people and the inspiration behind those people that have like really laid the groundwork to allow ourselves to you know, put ourselves in the situation to try to do it. Um, and yeah, none of this would really happen without like the guys and girls that came before us.
Yeah, speaking about influence in the backcountry, one series that was recently done really comes to mind, and that's Cody Townsend's The 50 Project.
Mm-hmm.
And what I liked the most about the 50, and I watched every single episode, some episodes multiple times. And Nick, you were featured in quite a few of the episodes. What I found so damn cool about the 50 was that Cody was just a freestyle. I mean, I guess you could say big mountain skier, right? He was into skiing lines and stuff like that, but he wasn't into he wasn't considered an alpinist by any means. And from episode 1 to I think it went to like 46 or 47, like he almost got there, still probably will at some point, but in due time, as he puts it. You watched him learn that process of really not knowing a ton about it to being one of the preeminent experts in the space.
Yeah, it's cool, and I think that's what's so cool about the mountains in general, and in terms of like being in a position to create films or write stories. You know, when you realize that like 99.9% of people, you know, don't know that much about the mountains, about the backcountry. So once again, you have this outlet, this opening to, you know, educate people about that and share a little bit of that world with them, which is really cool. And yeah, Cody and Bjarne did such a great job of that, of like really dumbing it down. Because so often, I mean, for the last however many 20, 30 years of like that there's been snowboard and ski movies, you know, the big mountain segments, they're like these helly shred porn deals, and like there's seemingly like a disconnect to the viewer where you don't know anything about it, where they're like, you know, as a kid, we'd watch the movies and be like, oh, that looks pretty easy. I can do that, you know.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
to
No
Alaska.
soft.
Yeah,
You know?
when you go to Alaska for the first time and you can't see anything, you know, it's just completely blind convex roll, and it's like, wow, this is the hardest aspect of snowboarding that there is. But like, I was thinking about this the other day, where I just love these like intricacies and nuances of every aspect of snowboarding. Of like, I would love to see a like a story based film of like a jib crew, you know, of like the behind the scenes of that, like show me like a doc style movie of like Spencer Schubert going on a rail trip. Like I would love to see that, because like it's seemingly like the furthest end of the spectrum away from what I do, but it's like, how do you like choose these spots, and you're dealing
Yep.
with, you know, all these external factors. I think it's interesting, and that's like the beauty of snowboarding, that like there's just so many avenues to it.
Yeah, 100%. And when you look at the snowboard films, you know, from big mountain to street snowboarding, the entire spectrum, 98% of the stuff in the film are just makes. It's just drop in, make, clip, like end, scene. There's nothing uh, not a lot of drama involved, and there's a lot of drama in all facets of snowboarding, and that's what I loved so much about the 50. Is one episode that stuck out to me in particular was the Mount St. Elias, right? Toward the end of that, when you guys are like, and I mean no offense by this, but you guys are like, man, we're fucking blowing it right now. Like, we made the wrong call and we got to get the fuck out of here. And then you get down and kind of get rained out for till the heli can come pick you up, but you ruminate on it and you reflect on it and you're like, you know what? It didn't work out, but that's part of being in the mountains, is like failing sometimes, but learning from those failings, if that makes sense.
Certainly. And I think too that's where there's like an opportunity to showcase work to a broader audience rather than like this kind of core snowboard community that maybe we're used to, of like, yeah, this like core endemic section. But like projects like that, you're able to appeal to masses of outdoor enthusiasts and people that can, you know, relate these experiences that we have in the mountains to their everyday struggles or their, you know, nightmare backpacking trip with their family or whatever it may be, which I think is really cool, is like these greater analogies to life.
Yeah, as far as like training the general public that doesn't have access to, going out there and skinning every day to kind of keep their skills sharp and everything, what are some other activities you do to kind of stay just ready to do these massive what expeditions? Like just I mean, do you rock climb, swim and all that as much as you kind of get out there and just skin and ride or
Yeah, I mean, there is no substitute for snowboarding and splitboarding of
right.
like getting in shape that way. And I do struggle with it in the summer times. I'll get my gym time in. I do rock climb, but I had a shoulder injury this past summer, so was definitely spending a lot more time in the gym. Um, but but yeah, there's no substitute for that. I think if you're into like running, it's probably pretty good. I'm not a big runner, but some people seem to like it.
Do you enjoy the skinning up and the climbing up as much as you enjoy the descent down, or is there a difference? Like which, yeah, however you want to
I
take that.
mean, no, like the riding is always the justification of doing these things for sure, 100% of going on a trip anywhere and doing things that are uncomfortable. But there has to be a part of you that does enjoy the climb of it. Because otherwise it's going to be really difficult and you're going to complain and you're going to be like, oh, I wish I had a snowmobile or a helicopter or a chairlift. But there is there's an element to it that is beautiful to it of walking and seeing the forest in a slower paced environment and getting a feel for the snowpack, and you're looking at animal tracks and all these things that just compound into this one sort of just meaningful experience where, at the end of the day, even if the snow sucks, it's still such a great day.
Yeah, because I'm sure you've gotten to the top before and the snow just wasn't what you wanted it to be, but you still got to ride down. So it's kind of just like, okay, well, at least the journey up was rewarding in its own sense as well.
Totally. Yeah, at least I was outside today and not stuck in traffic or whatever.
Yeah, bring in a street component. How nice would it be? Like halfway up one of your climbs, you could just jump out real quick and go get like a Dunkin' Donuts coffee, and then just, be like, all right, just a
That's
little
why
reset.
Europe is so sick.
Yeah. Oh, do they have coffee shops at 18,000 feet up in
I
Europe?
mean, not like that, but
Yeah.
like in the Alps, you could get a croissant or an espresso, damn near anywhere you look.
Yeah. No name cafe at the top of locks. Pretty nice.
Yeah, you get stopped hanging out there.
I heard a rumor, and I don't know if it's true. Maybe it's just snowboarding legend and lore that you have not had a season pass or ridden a chairlift in quite some time. Is that true?
That is not true.
Okay.
There was a couple years there that I didn't, and that was when I was like just broke and trying to save money and had really had this realization of splitboarding that I could snowboard every day and more or less find soft snow. But I got a pass to Palisades in Alpine, and I go there a lot preseason for sure, and storm days, not super often, but I love lab in the resort for sure.
And to be clear, me and T-Bird are both very soft. So you said you can get soft out there. We're soft.
Then let's go do a Euro trip, guys.
That brings us to another point. Like, how much do you weigh? Not to, how much do you weigh?
I don't know, maybe like 150.
Because even with as you're going up in altitude and stuff, and isn't there a thing about your body kind of like eating itself when you're just at that high of like, don't you want to be a little chubby? Don't you want to put on a little weight before you go up there?
I lose a lot of weight throughout the winter,
Yeah.
and especially in the springtime. And so in the fall and in the late summer, I do try to put on my winter weight.
See, that normal people can relate to that. So what do you eat to put on this winter weight?
Anything. It's awesome.
Yeah,
It's
just keep
great.
going. High calorie.
Yeah, when you know that well, more so in the winter, you can kind of eat anything. When you're having bigger days, it's amazing. Go and crush a large pizza yourself, burritos, Thai food, whatever. In the summer, I'm a bit more selectful of what I do eat, especially, doing rehab from my shoulder issue going on. So like trying to eat non-inflammatory foods and stuff like that. But I'm not too much of a stat guy. I've never been like a huge stat guy. I'm not like counting my calories or anything like that. I eat when I'm hungry, sleep when I'm tired, and go shred when I'm motivated.
What is food wise? What's the one thing? What's your like delicacy? The thing you can't go without on a big expedition.
uh, I think any food, if you're bringing it with you all the time, you're gonna get sick of it. Um, but I mean, I love me like a Snickers bar.
There you
Um,
go.
Something like that. Mint generals go a long way.
Yeah, that's backcountry currency.
That's kind of a non-negotiable.
Yeah. You crack that tin on any expedition and like every ear perks up. Everyone's like they know the sound.
Yeah, it helps. It helps. It's a stress reliever too. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think I would say like a shot block type thing, like electrolytes, something that doesn't dry out your mouth, that gives you a little bit of moisture, something like that.
For me, when I was living in Utah, splitboarding, snowmobiling quite a bit, they weren't expeditions, but like a long day trip. The one thing that I couldn't go without is a thermos that I would bury in the bottom of my bag, like a good Stanley or Yeti thermos filled with bone broth. And
Oh,
then you crack that thing out at like 2:30, and it
yeah.
is just like there's nothing better in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm into like veggie bouillons, or like sipping broth, something
Yeah,
like that.
it's a delicacy.
It is, yeah.
You guys also said that you kind of consider yourself conquistadors of the useless, or some people say conquistadors of the useless. Um, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, never mind. That's all. That was just a very nice sentence. I don't really have any questions.
That's from Lionel Terray, a very legendary French alpinist. His book was called Conquistadors of the Useless, and it's essentially his life story through the mountains of climbing some of the most impressive routes in the world. And it's such a great name because at the end of the day, when you look back on this life of adventure, it's like, are we just, is this useless? Is this a useless act? And his book kind of dives into that a bit. And that was sort of a bit of a tagline for a bit with Patagonia, of conquerors of the useless, and sort of just this poking fun at what we all do. And yeah, that line in the movie kind of just came to my mind because, yeah, I think from the outside perspective, like sometimes what we do does seem crazy and like ridiculous, but it is that thing that drives us and allows us to see this world in a different light. And at the end of the day, with all types of snowboarding, especially in the backcountry, you have so much time in your head where you're able to get this deep connection with nature, with the mountains, and then in turn, hopefully, I think like the ultimate goal is just to like be a better person, and contributor to society, which I think is like a really that's been the most impactful thing for me over the last couple of years of this pursuit of snowboarding. Is like, I definitely am super selfish the majority of the time when I want to go riding every day when the conditions are good. But having this lens of looking through the mountains allows you to look at the connected world in a different way and care about fellow human beings and the future of the planet. And it's especially right now going on. It's with everything happening. It's a crazy thing. And yeah, you just get to thinking of like what we're doing and the meaning of life.
I would imagine a question you get pretty frequently, and or like people that know you're riding but have never met you would probably ask you like, how do you conquer the fear? There, I would assume there have been times you've been in the mountains, as anyone who does what you do, where you're just fully gripped, like it's just fucking scary as shit. How
Yeah.
do you get over that? I think is a pretty common question that would be asked to people of your stature.
Um, I think breaking down like a justified objective fear versus like these internal um, subjective fears of like, am I in danger right now? Like, am I under a serac? Is there a danger from an avalanche or whatever it may be? Or am I just scared because I've never been here before? I'm in a situation that is totally new and foreign, and your internal system's just freaking out because you're seeing this whole new skyline and this air below you, and you're thinking about these hypotheticals of what could happen. And so being able to differentiate the two, I think, is like really the most important way to overcome a fear. But
See, that's what gets me. It's the fucking hypotheticals, man. The hypotheticals just
mhm,
start swirling in my head, and I like just can't get over them sometimes.
yeah,
And, knock on wood, haven't died or been seriously injured, but you get down and you're kind of like, why I made it. Why was I worrying about that shit? I ask myself that all the time. Like there was no need to be worrying about any of that stuff because it ended fine. It was totally good.
yeah, but it's good to worry about that stuff because it gets your brain thinking, and like you're going through these checklists of like, I think your brain triggers something where it's like, I should be scared right now. Why am I scared? Okay, I'm like climbing this thing. I'm worried about it avalanching, for example. You're like, okay, well, we're starting super early in the morning. There's no direct sun on it. It's super cold. There's not going to be any rapid warming. Okay, I'm going to check that off the list. Or like, okay, we've been looking at this thing for however long. It's not going to randomly avalanche at the coldest time of the day. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to check that off the list. Like, there's no overhead seracs that are going to break off. I'm checking that off the list, and you kind of go through these things, and I think it helps you. But yeah, it's you just don't want it to paralyze you where you can't move at all. And I think that's where
Right.
having the right partners with you in the backcountry is so important. Of people that will help you see through those fears and push forth and move onward, but then also people that reel you back sometimes because you do miss things sometimes. You're like, oh, I didn't see that gremlin on the side of the mountain there, or whatever it may be. So it's nice to have this balance of risk tolerance out there.
If someone has done the route before as opposed to a first ascent, first descent, do you feel a little safer going into it? Or I mean, obviously conditions change and there's a multitude of factors that like everything's always, you always have to be on your game, but is there a heightened feeling when it's like you're the first person that is going to be in this area that is going to be going down here?
Yeah, I guess that's an interesting way to look at it. I think when you're going to do something that someone else has done, there's a precedent for it, so you know that it's possible, um, and you know that if the conditions are lining up in your favor, there's no reason you can't go and do that too,
Right.
if everything is stacking up. Um, but I think, yeah, if you're going to do something new, you're kind of just going until it doesn't make sense anymore. Is really what it comes down to. You're going, like I said, when you break it up into sections and pitches, you're like, okay, I'm going to get to checkpoint one. Everything feels good. Let's keep going. I see no reason to turn around. And you keep going. You're like, oh, this is, a little bit uncomfortable, a little scary right now, but like I don't see any reason to turn around. It doesn't often work out. I'd say the majority of the time it doesn't work out, but that the only way to like continue to build and build and build is by putting yourself out there. And, odds always turn the other way, and the scales are always balanced for better or worse.
What is the most exposed slash like exposed you've ever felt slash gripped you've ever felt in the mountains? Is there like one certain moment that sticks with you that you remember?
Yeah, I have this moment in Bolivia. We were climbing these spines called the Puma spines, and I was with Danny Davis and Nat Murph, and Murph belayed me over the Bergschrund, and I started climbing up the spines, and it was super amazing snow. It was perfect, super solid, um, and I just kind of took off feeling it. I was feeling great, and it was steep, it was legit, but just felt on. And I was about maybe like 50 feet from the summit, and kind of encountered this change in the snow where it was like this rotten ice on one side and sugar snow on the other side of the spine, and I completely froze, and I couldn't move. I was like, I don't know what to do right now. Like, it's shit over here, it's shit over there. And Murph and Danny had caught up to me, and I'm like, Murph, you got to finish this. Like, I can't lead this right now. And he took over and got us to the top there. And that was kind of one of the only times where I like legitimately froze, and I just couldn't keep going. And that was now like 7 years ago at this point. But I remember that moment forever for sure.
And wasn't I remember watching that film? Wasn't there like some like crazy electrical storm that kind of rolled through that you guys were like filming during? I think I
Yeah,
remember something
lightning
like that.
storm, a legit lightning storm. Um,
Yeah.
so this mountain range that we were at, it was like to the west was Peru, to the west and north was Peru, and to the east was the Amazon rainforest. And so every afternoon, this moisture would come in from the Amazon, and it would come in like that, like so fast. It would be the most beautiful bluebird splitter day, and then all of a sudden you're in a complete whiteout. And then like in the little bit before that we had been there, the weather would push out sometimes within like 15, 20 minutes. And so we were going for this line, and this weather came in, and we kind of hunkered down for a little bit, hoping that it was going to pass. And it was pretty clear it wasn't going to pass. It kind of started like roaring and rumbling. I'm like, fuck, man, are those avalanches? We weren't in the direct path of an avalanche, but we didn't know if like the other side of the mountain was avalanching. And it turns out it was thunder. And we're like, okay, like hard bail right now. And we had GoPros on and the whole deal, so that's how we were able to record it. But there's so much static electricity in the air, and you're completely covered in your glacier gear, and everything is just ringing to the core. It was such a pretty terrible feeling, being at 19,000 feet. And Gray, the shot that's in the movie is Gray Thompson has a GoPro on, and you can like totally hear it in the camera, and I mean, he was okay. I don't think he like grew a tail or anything like that, or had any visual effects, but it shook us all for sure.
Yeah. 100%.
You
Yeah.
don't really seem like a person that kind of holds grudges or keeps a record kind of stuff, but do you know like your not I don't want to say failed attempts, but kind of canceled trips compared to successful summits? Like, do you have a record kind of going, or is it just like, no, I don't pay attention to that?
No, but like, I mean, we bail all the time. Um, it's just a matter of like what you perceive success and failure to be. Like, is
Yeah.
is it only a success if you make it to the tippy top and snowboard off the top? Or like, last week, Jerry and I were in the High Sierra and going and climbing and riding this couloir on Matterhorn Peak out of Bridgeport. And we stopped 50 feet from the top of the line there because we found this wind slab. And I was like, yeah, man, I don't want to climb through this. Like, it's not worth pulling a pocket and getting pulled down this thing right now. It's 2 p.m. It's cold. We're tired. Like, let's go down. And, we get to the bottom. We're like, that was an awesome day. Like, we totally scored. But I think once you get on those like bigger trips, it puts it in perspective a little bit more. So like, yeah, 3 failed trips to Mount St. Elias, failed trip in Nepal, yeah, I mean, you bail more than you send.
Is there one or two snowboarders that you can say you've probably learned the most from? Like, did you have a mentor coming up, like officially, or did you just kind of embed yourself with, Jeremy Jones and that whole squad and kind of learn from them? Is there someone in mind that you like would attribute a lot of your learnings to over the years?
I mean, talk about like my backcountry life. The first person for sure was Wyatt Stasnos, and then also alongside like Aaron Hooper, from the filming side of things. Learned so much from those guys. But then yeah, in like my split board world, like 100% Jeremy Jones, and Jim Zellers, just because living here in Tahoe and getting to ride with those guys on a regular basis. But yeah, you learn so much from so many different people along the way, of people that have been doing it longer than you, that are better than you. Like
You're talking street. You're talking street Jeremy Jones, correct?
Jib Jones, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Just a little levity,
Yeah, I mean, no, he's both of them are legends, but I'm referring to
Yes.
Big Mountain Jeremy Jones. But yeah, I mean, so many people, like, yeah, when I was in Utah, like Neil Provo, Forrest Shear, Forrest, like he taught me a lot, but then, he got me connected with the rep at Patagonia 10 plus years ago. Just kind of the local rep, and, that snowballed now into like one of my, longest running sponsors. And man, yeah, there's so many people. I've learned so much from Danny Davis. I lived with Danny for 7 years, and although, he's, doing a bit more trickery and freestyle riding than I am, but like when those guys like him and Kevin and the Matronis and those guys, like I took so much inspiration from them of seeing how they conduct themselves as professional athletes, and look at this whole pursuit as a career and whatnot. A lot from those guys, and yeah, just so many people along the way.
Man, Danny has always been so inspiring to me as a member of the media, because you look at all around snowboarding, that's what I really think is like the most impressive, because it's so hard to be good in multiple disciplines. And then you see Danny and it's like, he goes to Japan on a POW trip, and then he goes and stands on the, one of the top 3 podium spots at the X Games, and then he goes on like some crazy big mountain expedition, and he like excels in all these different categories. And like, as a member of the media, you just could never put that dude in a box, right? Like,
Dude,
he's just I think one of the greatest all-around snowboarders of all time.
I'd say the greatest. Like, what other snowboarder has won the X Games and also ridden lines off Denali?
Yep.
No
And
one.
expanded the community just by stoking out every single person you come into contact with. Like, I don't think no kid has ever left an exchange with Danny, like, not with a huge smile on his face, feeling like, wow, this guy like really cares and just is like eternally stoked on snowboarding.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah, he just
sure.
did it right.
I mean, he should win the Danny Davis Lifetime Achievement Award. It's ever a thing. 100%.
I mean, you got the beard and the hair too. You could be maybe the second one to receive that. What's the biggest trick you've ever had on a rail? You were slope style for a bit. We know you got rail skills.
There we go.
How do you categorize a big trick onto a rail?
I don't know. Yeah, now it's all about spinning. Sorry. What's your
I-
go-to?
I hit
Best
long rails.
street clip.
It's a long.
Yeah, shit. In Commotion, I front boarded a rail with I was with Cody Rosenthal, and I did a front board on a street rail that I think Keegan had hit. Keegan Blake had hit like in a Bruin movie a couple years ago, so that was probably my peak jib move.
That's a big. See, I would say front board. That's a big trick.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a down bar, no stairs or anything like that, but it was good for me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What do you have on the horizon? I mean, if you can talk about it, do you have any projects coming up? Do you have any peaks in mind, areas you're looking
Have
to
you?
explore?
Yeah. Have you found any tourist photos on Flickr that you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go hit that spot from that kid's hot tub photo with his girlfriend, and it's in the background?
Yeah, totally. I mean, dude, I definitely have a lot of things that I would like to do. Um, but with last year was kind of a lot for me, between the India expedition and then I went straight back up to Alaska after that. So to be honest, I was a little like burnt out from it all, and the film was sort of a late release in January, so still sort of coming down off of that. So I haven't quite got everything in order yet, for a springtime mission, just because it takes so much to do. So I've really been enjoying myself of like just seeing where the ball lies, and riding with friends, and doing some work, getting immersed with United Shapes. Just started riding for them this year. So trying to get people psyched on the boards and doing some shooting for them. We're doing like Patagonia campaign. We got some new products coming out next year, so I'll do a couple shoots for that, and then I'll probably try to link up with some friends come springtime and do some sort of short film, but nothing like crazy huge at the moment.
Dude, I feel like you can take a little time to breathe after that film you just put out. That really was one of the best films I've seen in a really long time. I'm actually going to watch it again tonight. I've already seen it twice. It was really cool.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
It's fun to make.
As far as, not to harp on records, but I did have one. How many first ascents do you have?
I don't know. I think like
Yeah, wow, that's incredible.
there's some like asterisks. What's the word? Asterisks. Yeah,
Asterisks.
like asterisks. Yeah, like I don't know. I look at it like some things like in Bolivia and things like that. Like that's like no one's gonna go there. So like I don't know. Does it count? But I don't know. I really couldn't tell you.
You know, there's asterisks
Not,
all
not
over.
that it's like a lot or anything like
Yeah.
that, but I
Yeah.
just don't have like a running tally going. But a handful, I would say, and that's proud. And I think that's, with anything that you're doing of being the first or one of the first to do something of whatever it may be is a cool feeling, and yeah, it makes you feel like you're, pushing the needle a little bit, in one aspect or another.
Dude, forget that. If I had a first ascent, it'd be like the locker room of an NBA finals when I was down with it. I would just be spraying champagne. It's not a cool feeling. That's an incredible feat that you do that nobody else has done, or you're setting the line so more people can do it. I don't think even getting there's no asterisks around it. It's not like you took steroids and hit a bunch of home runs. Like you're doing something human powered that nobody else is doing. It's incredibly impressive.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's it's a shrinking world out there. So I think you got to get creative and look between the lines a little bit more and more these days.
Hell yeah, Nick. Well, dude, we're just at 1 hour on the dot, which is where we like to keep them. And you're an inspiration, man. We're big fans. Can't wait to see what you do next. And we really want to thank you for an hour of your time, man.
Dude, I want to thank you guys for having me on and putting together this pod. This is awesome. So keep up the good work. We need more.
We'll have you
buddy.
on again. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
All right, Nick.
Cheers.
Later.
See you, man.
Have
See
a
ya.
good one. All right, that's the episode. T-Bird has to run, so this outro will be short. What do you have to do? What's so important?
I just got meetings and stuff,
Meetings and stuff.
Yep.
Don't meetings seem pretty just non-important after talking to somebody that just, walks up mountains for their life?
I mean, yeah, you just see how relaxed and chill and mentally stable Nick Russell seems. It's enviable for sure.
Yeah, I get anxiety walking into Target, and he's like, yeah, you got to wrestle your anxiety when you're on a new face with a with a massive snowpack ahead of you, and I'm just like, I wanted to ask him, like, do you get anxious anywhere else in the world? Damn it. Maybe next time.
Yeah, maybe next time for sure. No, he's a really inspirational dude. And again, if you haven't seen his film, Papsura, definitely seek it out and watch it. It's pretty incredible.
There you have it. All right. Another episode done. Thanks for listening. We never say it, but yeah, maybe subscribe and, do whatever it makes to keep this thing going. So thank you very much.
Yeah, smash like and subscribe. Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, in 2012.
All right.